Hello, Laura here. Welcome to Food Time and Garden. Today I'm going to be cooking with my Swiss chard in my scrambled eggs. But first, I'm going to prepare in my air fryer hash browns. But prior to that, I am going to cut out the shape of my homemade bread after placing the hash brown on top. Come on in and join me for some fun in the kitchen. I like to call this Laura's self-imposed exile breakfast. So there's certain things that are missing out of my kitchen and certain things that aren't. So let's see how we can put certain things together and come up with a delicious tasting meal. I program my air fryer at 400 for 20 minutes. Usually after 10 minutes I will flip them over and make sure I get a golden crispy brown on both sides. So I placed the frozen hash brown on top of my homemade bread because I wanted to cut out the shape of the hash brown without having it be all wonky and whatnot, trying to eye it. Some things you just don't leave to your eyes. Some things you might want a placement. So, I had all morning to put this together. So, it was time to cut it out and get the shape I needed. And then flip over the bread just to make sure that I had both sides cut through nicely. So leave a comment below this video about what you're making that is strange and different, but delightful to the taste buds and makes your family and yourself very happy. But I must admit, I wish I had bacon in the house. I had used up the last of the bacon about a couple of days before I went into my self-imposed exile of lockdown. I'm in my 4th week now. 2 days into my 4th week. So this is proving to be interesting and will continue to prove, because who knows what on earth I'm going to be putting together in my kitchen and hoping it's edible. How about you folks? What have you put together in your kitchen that you went, after tasting it, what the heck was I thinking? So I need to butter both sides of this bread because I'm going to put it onto a griddle pan, and I want to toast both sides of the bread, and I'll leave the cutout inside the bread until both sides are completely toasted, because I don't want the outer rim of this bread to tear, because there's very little bread left on the ring part. So I left it together. I thought that would probably work better for me in the long run. This actual recipe started out as egg in the hole, which was you take a cookie cutter, a round cookie cutter, and first you butter both sides of your bread. Then you take the round cookie cutter and make a hole. You take the hole out and you put it on your griddle pan or fry pan, and put the hole that's buttered on both sides, of course, in the pan as well, alongside. Crack an egg in the center and cook it like that, and give it a flip and cook the other side. And then when it's done, you take it out, you plate it up, and you put the hole on top, and then drizzle maple syrup over the top of that. And that's what my late husband used to call egg in the hole. But I thought I would jazz this up a bit. We need hash browns. We need hash browns in there. And we need a square-typed egg. So I need to check on my hash browns and probably give them a little bit of a flip. I really enjoy how well the Power Air Fryer makes and cooks my hash browns. They are crispy, they are delicious, and they cook up so quickly. In my oven, they take 25 to 30 minutes to get as crispy as it does 20 minutes, but probably could be done in 15 minutes. So now it's time to get cracking. Let's crack some eggs, why don't we? This is going to be a simple affair. Just whip up the eggs a little bit, a wee bit of pepper, a little bit of milk, and I'm going to harvest some of my Swiss chard from my indoor grow room and add to this. I thought that would be delicious. But first I need to check on my bread with my hash brown shaped hole in the center to make sure I do not burn it. Now be careful with this on the griddle. You'll want to lower the temperature so you don't burn it. So I washed my Swiss chard, patted it dry a little bit to get it ready to go into the eggs, which is going into a round pan, but they're going to come out square or sort of rectangular. Watch and see what happens. Whenever I make any kind of scrambled eggs, I like to have butter in the pan or a little bit of oil, and I always add milk. Now the reason to add the milk is your eggs typically will not stick to the pan if you add a little bit of milk to it. Because I used to do it without the milk, and I'd be chiseling the scrambled eggs off the bottom of my pan. So give it a good whisk, and whisk in that. The longer you whisk, the fluffier it'll be. But I was getting anxious to get this together, so it was time to cut up my Swiss chard to put in my eggs. Handy dandy tip is you take your Swiss chard, you layer it on top of each other, and then you roll it up, and then you cut it, and you have beautiful little pieces of Swiss chard, all nicely chopped up, very easy, very quickly. I must say, I am so happy that I started an indoor garden in my dining room a month and a half ago, because I'm harvesting Swiss chard, and very soon I'll be getting bush beans. So I added the Swiss chard to the egg, and then I'm going to put it into a pan, not too overly hot, and slowly cook it. And then I will begin to, I'm not going to make scrambled eggs because I don't want scrambled eggs. I want like a patty that will fit atop the hash brown, or the hash brown can fit on top of it. So I added a pat of butter to the pan and let it warm up so I could pour the eggs into the pan. But first I separated, because both sides were nicely toasted of the bread and the insert of the bread as well. It looks like hash browns along the side, doesn't it, folks? But no, that's the inside of the bread. So I lowered my heat to just keep it warm and added that cooked hash brown in the center. Now it's time to do the eggs. We want to do these eggs slowly, not too quickly, because if you do it too quickly, you know what's going to happen, folks. The bottom of those eggs are going to either stick or they're going to burn, and we don't want it to burn. Typically, I will put a lid over the top once I've put it in and arranged it just the way I want it, and that tends to help cook the egg a little bit quicker. But do you think I could find the proper size lid? Oh, the joys in the kitchen. You just never know. But the eggs were cooking, and now it was time to do a little maneuvering very gently and very carefully. Treat it like tissue paper, because if you want it to turn out, you have to have a gentle hand. So I slowly went around the circular form of these eggs that were cooking, hoping beyond hope that it wouldn't rip in the middle. I guess it would be fine, because they're going to be covered up, but you know, it's the perfectionist in me wanting for it to turn out perfectly, which rarely happens. Let's just admit it, folks. Perfect is not in my description box. So now I'm going to flip the sides and make this round egg a square or a similar, like a rectangle. And be very gentle with this, and it can be a little iffy, but just go slow and flip it over and use a spatula, which I should have done at the very beginning, and to get the shape. It's easier if you had a rectangle pan. So I wanted to release a little bit from the bottom because it was sticking a little bit. It was taking me too long to give this egg a shape. But I got it loose from the bottom without tearing it, and then I had one more side I needed to flip and for it to stay. Yeah, a spatula would be good here, Laura. Grab a spatula. No, not your finger. You're going to rip it. Yes, silly woman. There you go. Use that spatula. That's what it's meant for. It's meant to give you that second hand where you don't want to use your fingers. So pat it down, and there you go. You have a square, sort of like a rectangle. It's not a perfect square, it's not a perfect rectangle, but you know, it's close enough. And I thought, what else can I do with this? I do have some sliced cheese. Now, we have been saving the sliced cheese for grilled cheese sandwiches, so we don't use it for anything other than that because I only have so much, and when I run out, I run out. I have been inside the house, and I don't intend on leaving, so I found the cheese and I placed it on top, and I waited for it to melt. I did find a lid which helps speed up this action. So on goes the cheese. Wait for it to melt just a little bit. I don't want to leave it on there too awfully long because yet again you've got to remember you've got an egg underneath there. So I lowered the temperature as low as it would go, and I waited. I don't want the cheese to drip down off the sides because once I add it to my bread, it will probably drip down along. So I need to add my hash brown to the top because I thought that would be easier to move those three things, the egg, the cheese, and the hash brown atop, onto my circular bread ring that's been toasted with butter. Oh, when you bite into that toast that's been toasted with butter, it's like a grilled cheese, but it's better than a grilled cheese. So here we go. Let's do the placement very carefully, very slowly, and hope for the best. Voila! So far, so good. And I am so anxious to plate this breakfast up. Laura's self-imposed Exile breakfast at its best. But folks, there's something else we need to do. We need to add the topping, which would be either powdered sugar, it could be maple syrup, it could be a drizzle of honey, it could be even a spoonful of your favorite jam. Anything can go on top of this, but I thought I wanted maple syrup. So let's drizzle that beautiful maple syrup atop this Laura's self-imposed Exile breakfast and see what it tastes like. So let me hear or read in the comments below, what do you make for breakfast during these hard times that we're all going through? Have you been trying different things in your kitchen? Have you been using substitutions for different things? Been searching the internet for substitutions for milk, condensed milk, for eggs? Are you making your own butter? Or you... I wish I had some chickens. I really do. It must be lovely to have your chickens laying fresh eggs and you just go out in your backyard and oh, look at this. Yes, indeed. Let's give this concoction a try. Ta-da!